My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Ontario Town Square, gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport and Wells Fargo. The gang stalkers in position, documented by license plate, includes the heavily documented Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. That's Edward Henry 41 Thomas 03. That's a female driving a white Murano. Also license plate 17352 Robert 2. And the heavily documented terrorist that drives the white Jeep, an employee of the gang stalking venue, Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. They are in relevant position while the entity is maintaining what is plane activity now over 240 North Euclid Avenue, and a foggy sky space is not changing the same maintenance of the elements, and the entity is still obsessively stalking. The fake sun documentation showing you the evidence of their mental illness, which is existing right now, and it is impacting another American citizen, which is a threat to the public, while a mentally ill population is conspiring together, murder, stalking that person together. They're doing so while stalking using commercial planes. This is, again, the mentally ill that are on the Ontario board, the mentally ill that are on the Ontario executive team, the mentally ill that calls himself an airport, the president of the airport authority. This is nothing other than a domestic terrorist that's in need of severe routine mental examinations. Alan D. WAPNER. Stalking on behalf of what is the entire city of Ontario using commercial planes, and doing so, stalking with a population. I'm at 224 North Euclid Avenue, but this is a statewide pattern of conduct. So the entity
is maintaining gang stalking surveillance around me at this square, where Metro 102 Apartments at 102 Lemon Avenue, Mule Car Smokehouse at 200 North Euclid Avenue, Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue, Saris Regis, Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments at 320 North Euclid Avenue, and the entity that is at the 280 North Lemon Apartments, the entity that's surrounding, this is the Civic Center area, so the OVITT Family Community Library, the Ontario City Hall, the University of Laverne College of Law, a gang stalking institution that's going to be dealt with under federal law. They're all engaged in what is maintaining presence in the path. So it's not based on business hours either with regard to criminal and civil liability, because the population maintains, as the Ontario International Airport does, maintains and uses the sky space, uses the structure around the structure, stalking in the path, using the parking lot, being on the property, being around the property. You're going to be prosecuted. This is public corruption, and the entities engaging in that P.O.C. and the existence of that venue is the liability of that venue. It's a crime scene, and it is the ability to provide a crime scene, in other words, for an American citizen to be targeted. And it's a means of identifying that government that's doing so through everyone, everywhere. P.O.C. It is August 8, it's not August, it's 8:18 a.m. and it's October 25th, 2025. It's Saturday morning and the P.O.C. continues. License plate 9MZK741. 4ZYB288. 7FBH528. License 87291 handicap 6WDG180. License 8P16731. And license 9FMD502. These are demons that are gang stalking via the means of Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue, and Wells Fargo is also gang stalking the company, P.O.C. (8:53 a.m.) The entity stalking by smaller planes. So the entity is sounding what is amplified plane activity, sounding reminiscent of when the entity is using what are the smaller government planes. It's the same city of Ontario, not using a commercial plane as the means of crossing path, because all of it is amplified, which is demonic, and all of it is pursuant to what is stalking as an corrupt public entity. And the entity is using a smaller government plane at 8:54 a.m. at the Ontario Town Square, P.O.C. with the people of the state whose license plate I just documented. They're gang stalked with the city of Ontario, P.O.C. License SWAC328 9MED346 7ABL006, or excuse me, 7ADL006. Saris Regis Group is gang stalking of a demon that is outside of the venue, stalking in the path with light. Saris Regis Group is gang stalking even if nobody was outside of the venue, conspicuously engaging in the elements of monitoring, because the venue is here, and everybody that lives in that venue, everybody that's inside of that venue is automatically going to be subject to a criminal prosecution for engaging in state surveillance with the state. But you do have a demon that's in the parking lot engaging in conspicuous stalking. It's currently 8:57 a.m. Alrighty. Conduct and the stalking with light conduct, the ways in which the entity is stalking with planes and helicopters, the ways in which the entity is stalking under things like a fake sun. As I arrive underneath the covering of the OVITT Family Community Library on the side, where I've maintained years of documentation of what is gang stalking, the moment that I arrive, you have a demon that gets in perfect alignment with me. This appears to be a white male in front of what is the Page One Cafe. The entity is engaged in what is stalking by maintaining something, anything, anyone. And this is speaking to the obsession of an entity that does use things like planes and helicopters and maintaining what are the people of the state in the path. And as I arrive under this demon is stalking in the path by being present with a communication device. You'll see a white male, looks like he's probably balding, and is wearing blue shorts and a blue t-shirt with a backpack. He's stalking in the path and maintaining presence on behalf of an entity. These are the demons that are engaging in things such as stalking in bathrooms, and then they are engaged in what is harassing you by then engaging what is gang stalking with the demons that dress up like they're police officers when all they're doing is stalking all day long in this obsessive manner. That level of obsession is what is a threat to the lives of American citizens, and it's also revealing what is closeted mental illness amongst a demon-possessed and criminal, corrupt population. Okay, so that's speaking to, again, the timing. I arrive immediately. A demon is in the path, stalking in the path, and doing so, that's getting to what is an obsession that a population sought and failed sorely. You're looking at how much they failed. And the inability for them to control their obsession and control what is showing the secrets that they never wanted known. But this is showing the psychopaths that they have been the entire time. Okay, the helicopter activity, the stalking with impossible light activity, then everybody's looking at what they're doing, and then you engage in gang stalking as a police department. Not only does that police department have no legitimacy, you are aware about what they're doing when they engage in criminal summoning together against a target individual. This absurdity regarding this corruption is relevant to mental illness, and it's all because they are obsessed stalking. Okay, this is relevant. The criminal conduct is directly informing mental illness. It's going to be literally used to assess mental illness. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9 a.m. on the dot.
Stalking with the people of the state. Seeing the same combination of presence in the path by the people, and doing so, stalking in the path. This is the same white male engaging in surveillance over here while the entity is flying over the side of the OVITT Family Community Library. These are demons that are conspiring murder, stalking together as a population. And you're going to prosecute the venue. Ontario's gang stalking. The Ontario City Hall is right here, where you already know the fake sun is over me at 10 o'clock in the morning at that venue. It's over me at 12:51 in the afternoon at that venue. I've documented before 2025. It's over me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at that venue. The entity stalked me by helicopter at that venue. The entity stalked by commercial plane at that venue. This is the entity that's gang stalking, and this is the Ontario Civic Center, and they're all monitoring, concentrating the plane activity right here, flying over a senior citizen complex and doing so. Okay, and there are no takeoffs. Again, the entity is engaging what is flying over the Pizza Hut off of G Street in Euclid, stalking me, flying over the ARCO and the CHEVRON, stalking me over Euclid Avenue, concentrating the plane activity right here where I'm at, stalking as a municipality, concentrating the plane activity that is ceasing in sound right here, but when I'm at the Ontario Town Square, acting as though they're taking off over the Ontario Town Square, and that sound is ceasing over there as though they're taking off over it's absurd. And it's a clear, blatant targeting pursuant to mental illness. And the mental illness by the demons that are stalking in the path with them. And they're inside of the building, stalking in the path with them. They're inside of the OVITT Family Community Library before business hours, gang stalking. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:32 a.m.
Sarah's Regis Group, gang stalking, Ontario Town Square. 280 North Limit Apartments, that's the City Center Senior Apartments, the Ontario Senior Center as well, the Ontario City Hall, gang stalking with what is that plane activity where the Ontario International Airport is targeting at this location. No planes are going to be heard or hovering over any of these buildings while they are also in the specific environment stalking, but it's not going to occur at all when the entity is engaged in what is being a legitimate airport taken off from 2500 Airport Drive. All right, this is 9:53 a.m. I'm capturing images of mental illness. The demon in the black hoodie with the black shorts, the black socks, and the black tennis shoes, and the black beanie, he's pacing. And he's doing this for a prolonged period, and as demons are monitoring, they are engaging in what is pacing together. That's a vehicle driving by and another walking by. Those are demons that are driving in opposite directions. Those are demons that are flying over while they're walking and driving. These are demons that are pacing all around me. They do so while you are able to see very vividly that they're all stalking while a fake sun remains over me all day long. While a fake sun remains over me in a building all day long. 28021E3. That's what the OVITT Family Community Library has put on display for the world, and I'm going to prosecute OVITT, which is the City of Ontario, and the kidnappers of that venue. 7KYU035. Sarah's Regis Group at 320 North Euclid Avenue is gang stalking while the entity is stalking using commercial planes, that entire apartment building. License plate, crossing path, 3EBH039. License plate 7VOK126, crossing path 78338 Edward 4. License 9NAV586. License 8NYG342. The government that is engaging in surveillance in the ways that I've shown and the way that the environment demonstrates is doing so with the people of the state. Every apartment building, every business, every parking lot full of license plates, they're all gang stalking together. 9VXM458, and there is no exception to that. 9JVY531. What you have been informed about is the removal of the illusion that you have to prosecute criminal conduct based on an individualized basis, and that there's no way to prove that a whole population is engaging in that, and that is disproven with regard to, and it's totally utterly destroyed with regard to the entity that's gang stalking in the specific environment with a corrupt government at all places, at all times, in the ways in which they're doing so. A population of so-called strangers, all of them stalking with impossible light. T1GRPWZ, 5MJR827, that's a population that is sharing criminal conduct at all places and at all times. That's the entire city. That's the entire state. 6RHG311, and that's only because I'm one person in California, because if I went to North Dakota, I'd be prosecuting North Dakota. But you know what North Dakota is doing, because the fake sun's remaining over me. There's only one sun. So North Dakota is already suspicious with regard to engaging in maintaining state surveillance. 8VDU431. What the entity is doing to me in California, in Ontario, at the OVITT Family Community Library in Ontario, California, is letting you know what's going on in the rest of the country. 55331W3. And their demons engaging in surveillance throughout this country. All right, and the demons in California are being exposed for it. They are going to be an example for as to how domestic terrorists are going to be targeted, and they're also letting you know that the Nephilim are here. It is currently 9:56 a.m. This is P.O.C. Nine CFU 735, in case I didn't read that one. 8XRN 182. 9MED 346. Monitoring with minor children, 9MHC 227. License plate 9MNK489, 9NYS 333. This one's monitoring with minor children as well. They all are. This is the psycho pacing, 7JXB397. Coming to participate. That's the dangers of a gang stalking population sharing in conspiracy to murder. You can just go around and stop in the neighborhood and monitor the target individual and then drive off and go off with the rest of your day. That's the demon in the black beanie with the black shorts and the black socks and the black, coming around wearing all black, which is the demon that's documented in images, stalking with the airport, stalking with the white male while I'm on the side of the venue. He's driving off in that vehicle right now at 9:58 a.m. 7ADL006 and 7DZL179. 5NOZ723. This is P.O.C. Currently, this is Tracy Banks that's engaged in gang stalking. So I just want to show the specific environment where she is targeting with the OVITT Family Community Library, that is with the Ontario Police Department, that is with the City of Ontario. And she's doing so with the entity that is stalking together. She's a part of the same entity, okay? She committed kidnapping under the fake sun that was rising and setting over Woodside Senior Apartments. Tracy Banks is monitoring and furtherance of murder with CWPA890 in concert with license 7AZH776, in concert with license 9JBC023, in concert with Mickey, John, Abigail, that was under the fake sun at 12:14 in the afternoon. It's 1:19 in the afternoon. This is where the fake sun is at the same entrance at 10 o'clock in the morning. Tracy Banks license 9HUZ740. Talking in furtherance of murder with the City of Ontario that was maintaining commercial flight over the apartment complex, Woodside Senior Apartments, where there are also no planes taking off in the direction over Woodside Senior Apartments, which is far in this direction, which would be northwest, okay? This is the Tracy Banks that's gang stalking me at the OVITT Family Community Library pursuant to what is stalking in furtherance of murder. Not coincidentally coming to the venue where I'm always present. She's a gang stalker. She's a gang stalking mother. That's relevant to federal prison. And it's also relevant that the City of Ontario and Tracy Banks conspired together, engaging in criminal defamation, repeatedly kidnapping, doing so with her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields, Eric Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, doing so with regard to the identification of the venue where I'm showing you the fake sun rises and sets at OVITT, the fake sun rises and
assets at Tracy Banks' apartment, which is northwest of this location. The entity is stalking by the Ontario Police. Mike LORENZ is going to be prosecuted for conspiring murder with Tracy Banks, with the people of the state, while they're stalking me and harassing and keeping me under surveillance and my vagina under surveillance, both in the bathroom at OVITT and inside of Tracy Banks' apartment. This is evidence that Mike LORENZ is already surrounded with, that the Ontario board and the Ontario executive team, the city of Ontario, is already surrounded with while they're stalking under a fake sun. This fake sun is, remember, when I'm in the parking garage at 7:56 in the morning, you can see the fake sun at the same entrance. Tracy Banks is monitoring, the Ontario International Airport is monitoring, the people of the state are monitoring, and she's doing so in furtherance of murder. She does not actually love her so-called daughter. That's why she's gang stalking me. She's gang stalking while she gets in her car and drives off and knows that I'm behind her documenting it, and the entity is acting in concert with her. That's what committed kidnapping on May 29, 2025. Mike LORENZ, that agency that's going to be prosecuted. 9L and W796. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 1:20 p.m. We're in the natural environment. The sun is not going to be over the same entrance, and it's also not going to be still here over the building of Wells Fargo and shooting straight into alignment with where I'm sitting at the computer station number 1, where gang stalkers are inside of the library with minor children who are nothing other than activity creators. This is relevant positioning and light activity. This is also mental illness. These are the demons stalked with impossible light, dancing while they're being prosecuted under federal law. That's mental illness by those that pose a threat to minor children, teaching them to be terrorists and sex offenders. P.O.C. It is currently 1:21 p.m.
It's impossible light activity. Not only is it shadows appearing on the wall, the staircase appearing on this wall, it's double shadows while they're walking up and down, they're pacing. This is also concentrated engineer light. This is relevant to sex offenders that I captured sitting here engaging in surveillance outside of a bathroom. They're engaged in what is present. I've already shown you. Here's a shadow over here. Here's a shadow over here. This is the double shadows that are up there on the wall where they are walking in engineer light, and the fake sun is still over the OVITT Family Community Library. These are demons that maintain surveillance in the bathroom, including by sitting outside to make sure that Satan is making sure you're always surrounded. You'll never get in access to the toilet without passing by Satan. They do so also by coming in and out of the bathrooms, and they're doing it in engineer light. Here's one shadow over here. Here's another one on the floor rising up. This is P.O.C. This is sexual violence by the entity that's engaged in what attain. Oh, somebody told you I was yelling in the bathroom, and somebody that didn't even come out of the stall, who I'm not addressing, is making those sorts of allegations in the engineer light under the fake sun, where they have this absurd light activity inside. This is a demon you'll see engaging what is surveillance outside of the bathroom. These are sex offenders. Again, Mike LORENZ and the Ontario International Airport maintaining surveillance. Sex offenders staying inside of the venue to what is criminal presence in the engineer light and ongoing audible noise. This is P.O.C. with that shadow. Double shadows. Okay, it's P.O.C. It's currently 5:05 p.m. And this is again on the first floor. So you're looking at what's impossible light activity from the top portion here. Shadows appearing on the side. Shadows appearing in front. These are the demons making malicious and false assertions, allegations, in order to engage in what is a federal offense, criminal summoning. All right, you're engaged in surveillance and engineered light, and this is not sunlight. Very highly unintelligent. This desperation is getting to what is obsession, pursuant to stalking, surveillance in bathrooms. This is not sunlight, nor would it be when I'm showing you the fake sun over this venue, this entry that I walk in at 10 o'clock in the morning. And this is not the sun. This is the light source speaking to surveillance and demons that know where you are. Sex offenders also monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, where the police are engaged in criminal summoning with the gang stalkers, engaging in what is criminal defamation while they're monitoring. This is P.O.C. It's currently 5:07 p.m. This fake sun is the guise for what is all engineer lights, not sunlight, nor would it be creating the shadows that you see on the staircase downstairs. That's P.O.C. License plate 8XTJ819, and the Ontario International Airport is monitoring, just like they were when Tracy Banks is here, as a population, conspiring my death by gang stalking with the city of Ontario. There is no sun that's remaining over one address for 11 hours to 12 hours, and there is no plane takeoff, arrivals, and departures over the OVITT Family Community Library, over a senior citizen complex. This is where Tracy Banks was at 1 in the afternoon. Jason Isaac Fields, Eric Corey Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, everybody else that submitted perjurious testimony regarding my character while they've been conspiring my murder in order to steal my property through criminal and fraudulently procured devices like a fake conservatorship and fraudulent marriages and fake death certificates, while the people of the state are committing crimes in my name, knowing who I am, which you also know that because of a fake son. 7NSF 958. Mike LORENZ is conspiring my murder. The Ontario International Airport gang stalking me using commercial airline planes. Those companies engaged in the conspiracy to commit murder, while a population is engaged in what is monitoring my vagina. That's the P.O.C. That's how obsessed with the stalking pattern of conduct is. This is not sun. That's not the sun. And this would not be sunlight reaching into the depths, okay? This is gang stalking. It's P.O.C. License 9JFP528, stalking under the 5:45 p.m. fake sun, 74024G1, stalking under the 5:45 p.m. fake sun. That's at the same address, 215 East C Street in Ontario, California. And it is 5:46 p.m. upon my exit. I'm capturing the fake sun that's in alignment with my face as I am standing at the exit doors, the exit door areas, and you're also looking at what is impossible light that you'll see. I took a picture of it. I stand there. You can see what is the evidence of a molestation, a sex offense, while amber-colored engineered light is just appearing out of. So literally what the entity is doing is there's a fake sun, and then you'll just see light that's just on the wall. Totally inexplicable, but you see a fake sun, and these are things you're not paying attention to at all. The light has absolutely nothing to do with the fake sun. 9RXF197, stalking under the 5:46 p.m. fake sun. And the light is just there for purposes of a sex offense, touching you, while a population is surrounding you, stalking you, and keeping you under surveillance, monitoring you on your devices. And while I am the federal prosecutor that is documenting and using my device and doing so, they are keeping evidence against them while they are actively conspiring murder. That's what gang stalking is, the conspiracy to commit murder. It is committed in furtherance of murder committed as an entity. 10690W2, stalking under the 5:47 p.m. fake sun. License 7VBF621. They are engaging in what is a sex offense while the entity is doing that, and they do that through the thousands of people, as I've documented, one demon after another, stalking with impossible light activity. The entity is full of sex offenders, and there are also sex offenders that engage in sex trafficking as an entity. They put you on the internet in order to watch you in the nude in your home, unbeknownst to you as an entity. They're sex offenders in that regard. They're sex offenders that are actually pedophiles. This entity is engaged in what is sex trafficking children. They're sex offenders in that regard. They're sex offenders with regard to what is engaging in surveillance in bathrooms as an entire population, not just the sex offenders inside of the apartment that I'm in, or the hotel room that I'm in, or the building like the OVITT Family Community Library that I'm in. They're sex offenders in that regard. The entire population is engaged in surveillance while that entity is both inside the bathroom, around, outside of the bathroom, surrounding the venue, where they're engaged in surveillance as an entity. So the whole state of California knows that Erica Lorraine Spencer's genitalia is exposed and what's going on in the bathroom, and whether I'm using pads or a tampon, whether I'm using what type of underwear at all, if any, I'm wearing. These are the sex offenders engaging in gang stalking. Okay, and that's the level of surveillance. They're sex offenders in that regard, stalking under a fake sun. Okay, license, that's mental illness and sexual violence by sex offenders. 9SXC 258, stalking under the 5:48 p.m. fake sun. License 8YJJ452, 87124Z1, 6ZBK964, 6GPS582. Stalking license 82Q5616. License 9NDY652, 6ALA078, 9LFU883. License 9HUZ634. License 6ROW260, 8NLI862, 9NGB753, 7HZM062. Engaging in surveillance, stalking, license 9GNZ774, because I didn't read that. License 8YTR458. License 8VVY436. That's a demon stalking with amplified noise, maintaining noise under the 5:49 p.m. fake sun while this demon is stalking with light. License plate with the headlights on, license 63612H1, remained in the parking lot, stalking in the path, okay? Keeping my vagina under surveillance, engaging what is loitering in the path, and you are loitering. You're loitering where you live, you're loitering where you work. The government has no warrant or probable cause to maintain criminal surveillance at that in furtherance of murder. They are all stalking. They're stalking at the Ontario Police Department under the fake sun. I'm going to prosecute you where you claim to belong because they're all engaged in surveillance, and no, you do not. And I will prosecute you under the law, and you have no defense, by the way. License 6DWC601, 7HPF 865. License 7GKC474, XIMA 916. Keeping a woman's vagina under surveillance. This is a homosexual predator, a sex offender on many fronts. License 9DXB812, 9SMP808. License plate 5MBN577. Metro 102 apartments in every resident, including the property management company, is engaged in surveillance. The 280 North Lemon Apartments, the Mule Cart Smokehouse, all of this venue, all of the Ontario Civic Center, Paul Leon at the Ontario City Hall. You don't have to physically be in that building. That venue is there. The entities engaged in surveillance around and inside of that building. The City of Ontario, ceaseless surveillance is underway. This is merely identifying where I'm at with regard to maintaining relevant positioning, while the state, the U.S. government, maintains massive surveillance. People outside of the state of California are keeping me under surveillance, and the entity is keeping me under a fake sun in doing so that people at a great distance away are keeping me under surveillance, including on the venue of the internet. Okay? Outside of what it is that I'm publishing, I want to be clear, okay? This is P.O.C. It's criminal surveillance on devices, all right? License plate, stalking under 5:51 p.m. fake sun. License plate, sex offender, 07193D3. License plate, doing so while the entity is not flying over the Ontario Town Square. Matter of fact, let me show you where they're flying. They're flying over Metro 102 because I'm over by Metro 102 apartments. That is, again, monitoring my vagina, which is the Ontario International Airport, with license 7JXB073, I believe. Substantially similar. The entity is engaged in what is stalking where I am. This is what Tracy Banks, again, someone that wants to present as a mother, somebody that wants to present as someone that loves you, but everyone knows, with common sense knows, that Tracy Banks doesn't actually love me or have my best interests at heart when you are aware of all the facts which she desperately sought to keep concealed from everyone, including the world, while she's been engaged in gang stalking with the government. And you're gang stalking with the government with the intention to murder someone, the person that you're targeting, and Tracy Banks is murdering me. Ostensibly a loving mother, but not persuasively. I've documented her for years, and the evidence shows on its face and in substance that she is a maniacal psychopath, very malicious. And she's engaged in what is murder while that airport is stalking by flying over the OVITT Family Community Library entrance under the fake sun that is still present, as I document, after 5 p.m., where no natural environment maintains a sun on the East Coast, maintains a sun at any point of the day while it's outside of the same entrance where it is, even when they cover it up at 10 a.m. and they show it at 12 and 1, and it's still there after 5. And you've already documented it there before 8 a.m. None of the evidence is forgotten. That's where the entity is stalking as an airport, stalking where it is that I go, in concert with Tracy Banks. Tracy Banks is speaking to what is a population, a group in particular, those whose name I know, that have engaged in perjury by sitting in courtrooms and violating what is an oath that they take, the demons of the Ontario Police Department, conspiring murder by targeting, criminally defaming me with Tracy Banks, who needs that. She needs government assistance, not with regard to paying her rent, but government assistance with regard to defaming my character and manufacturing what is a paper trail in order to support what is perjury and gang stalking courtrooms, where this entity that is gang stalking is also doubling as a legitimate criminal justice system, a legitimate court system, where they are engaged in what is actually theft upon targeting an American citizen. That's what's relevant with regard to Ronald Leverage, Julia Gu, Jim Bowman, Alan D. Wapner, and Kurt Hagman, who are exposed simultaneously. automatically, axiomatically, while the entity is engaged in what is stalking by commercial planes. And that stalking is also proven by my movement and that ongoing clear deviation from any takeoff that would have anything to do with the airport at 2500 Airport Drive. And also while it's happening under the fake sun that's remaining over the entrance. That's what Tracy Banks was engaging in, like I documented on video. This entire population, not just the demons whose license plate that I read right now, are engaging in a massive sex offense which Tracy Banks, an unloving family member, contributes to. Sexually exploiting her own family member, engaging in what is deriving gratification from that, targeting me with license 9SYS247. Regis Group, the downtown Ontario luxury apartments, and you see how they are hovering over the apartment building and stalking in the path with a method of light, driving out of the parking garage at the same time, stalking together with those that are residing at the venue. It's Regis Group, in other words, this is not a victim with regard to just the government being corrupt and stalking and monitoring, and that the people of the state don't know anything about it. That's why I have the fake sun over me in the morning on this side and remaining in the afternoon on this side. Remember, Sundays when the library doesn't open till 1, then you have a whole alteration with regard to the fake sun that's supposedly over here already at 10 o'clock. But now when I'm here at 7:39 a.m. and the fake sun is aimed in alignment to me inside of this parking garage at 7:39 a.m. when it's supposed to be over Economy Inn, which is where I originally got that documentation. But that's if you're forgetting about everything that was documented at Alvarado Gardens, same time of year where the fake sun was rising and setting, and LAPD and LAX is stalking with planes and helicopters, just like Ontario Police and the Ontario International Airport is. 0255 882 was gang stalking and flying over Sarah's Regis Group. They were, again, in the images and on the podcast, they're gang stalking by flying over Metro 102 apartments. As I walk in this direction, so do this plane activity. As I walk in that direction, so does the plane activity. That is stalking. And that is overt evidence of stalking, and this is the same street where the fake sun is rising and setting. Okay, that fake sun that's outside of this entrance, which I'm capturing today upon my exit, is speaking to the scientific evidence regarding stalking by that airport that's targeting in furtherance of murder. All right, it is currently, and they're doing so with the people. So while the government's doing that, it's automatically, this is what you're understanding, you have the case against the people of the state, where you have the people of the state gang stalking the way that I'm showing at OVITT Family Community Library, for example. You have the case against the government. If the entity was so crafty enough to never show a police officer stalking in helicopters like the Ontario Police have been shown for years, 9TGB 189 exposes the government for gang stalking, and that's how you are understanding the system. It is currently 6 p.m. P.O.C. Alrighty, I just want to go ahead and continue. Tracy Banks is targeting in furtherance with the people of the state and doing so in furtherance of murder. So that's speaking to the malicious intent that a gang stalking family member, a gang stalking mother holds, and all of the collateral harms that I have suffered by the state that is targeting and conspiring my death with Tracy Banks, with Eric Spencer, is speaking to the malicious intent that Tracy Banks, a gang stalking family member, that's speaking to how legislation is going to surround domestic terrorism by a United States government that's targeting you necessarily with your social circle family, especially when you're not a criminal and you're being targeted. The entity needs the people of the state to manufacture that paper trail in order to kidnap and then ultimately take your life, which is murder committed as an entity. License 9FJR013. License 9HPC 948. 23079 Victor 2. 9TJB 885. 7WKD 254. 8SYP 858, and the entity is stalking by the Ontario International Airport. The video that you just listened to is while I then walk in the opposite direction along the same street, and the entity is maintaining plane activity by hovering over another apartment complex. This is in the direction that I'm walking as I go what is south. The plane activity is hovering over the Metro 102 apartments, maintaining placement on the south side of my person. As I walk north, that's when they are maintaining presence on the south side of my person by hovering over the downtown Ontario luxury apartments, where again, no airport departures and arrivals, meaning takeoffs and landings that are published on the website, where the entity is engaged in what is a cover for what is terrorism, and it's an unpersuasive. I've shattered that for you. No takeoffs that they have published is going to include hovering over the Ontario Town Square, the Stater Brothers parking lot, the Starbucks at 706 West Hope Boulevard, Tracy Banks' apartment complex, as the body of evidence shows that, flying over my head while I'm on Euclid Avenue, the south end of Euclid Avenue, going toward Economy N. The entities engaged and documented in all manner of targeting me, flying over me while I'm on the sidewalk, engaging what is just doing U-turns in the middle of the parking lot, in the middle of the street, wherever it is my person is, and the entity is doing so in whatever direction that I'm traveling. That's the entity that's doing so by flying far away from any airport and then hovering in the sky space over me, and that is the unintelligent system of gang stalking using planes while they're doing so far from any plausible narrative regarding, oh, we're taking off. We're not targeting. We're not stalking the targeted individual. We don't know anything about a targeted individual. We're Delta Airlines. We're Southwest Airlines. We're taking money for destinations. No, they're not, under the fake sun. All right, and that's the entity that's engaged in that. And on top of the science that's going to prosecute the terrorists that are stalking and they are mentally ill, science is also going to serve to diagnose psychopaths that are conspiring murder. The entities engaging in this while they are keeping the evidence under surveillance. While you're conspiring someone's murder, that is not an innocent victim. This person that you're targeting has been keeping track of it, and you engaged in more and more targeting. That's relevant to the diagnosis for mental illness. It's relevant to time in federal prison. It's relevant to the ways in which you're going to prosecute a government for engaging in domestic terrorism, and it is unmistakable evidence of targeting. Unmistakable. Okay, license 9RMK 407. It is currently 6:07 p.m. This is P.O.C. Over the top of my head yesterday night at Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, which is also where the Ontario Police Department engaged in what is flying over the top of my head and flying in circles around me. This is the entity, again, the entire Ontario Town Square flying over the top of my head. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in what is stalking in the path. The Ontario International Airport does so on the south side of my person. Serial flight on the south side of my person as I travel north or south of any street in Ontario. That's the entity. That's the same city of Ontario. That's a threat to your life. It's pursuant to the same gang stalking system at 6:50 p.m. at Ontario Town Square. This is P.O.C. I will show you the specific environment. I've got two shadows. This one is faint over here. Alright, you can see it appearing underneath on the bushels. Yeah, this is P.O.C. It is gang stalking. It's criminal surveillance. This is surveillance while the people of the state are surrounding at the square. This is surveillance while they maintain a booth under the guise of what's supposed to appear as legitimate. It's not. It's gang stalking at the infamous Ontario Town Square where the fake sun rises and sets. P.O.C. All right, the video you are listening to is relevant to the ongoing sex offense, sexual assault and battery that Sarah's Regis Group is also engaging in. While I am sitting at the Ontario Town Square and light is touching my person, this is, again, when you're looking at them on video, them being the demons who are gang stalking, and this is speaking to the formation of laws in this country regarding domestic terrorism. The demon-possessed are engaged in terrorism. They're gang stalking, and that's demonic activity, and it's also criminal activity. And so this is the criminalization of demonic behaviors that are acting in furtherance of murdering and kidnapping American citizens while the government practices this targeting system. And so when you're looking at the false illusion of what is demons that are driving on the streets, you're looking at it on the surface, and the sun is in the sky. That's not sunlight. Obviously, that's inside a Starbucks while they're driving on the street outside of the Starbucks. It's also not their headlights. So the entity is engaged in what is pairing together illusions. You see the sun, you see sunlight, and you see them driving. And again, not only is it an illusion, it's an unintelligent illusion, because that is not even sunlight. They're doing the same thing at nightfall when you're looking at engineer light while demons are even across the street. And I've documented while there's not even a demon in a vehicle driving on the street. The light has absolutely nothing to do with the fake sun during the day, nor their headlights at night. This is speaking to the reality of the spiritual realm. The reality that these are people that are demon possessed. The reality that a demonic environment surrounds you and is targeting you specifically with regard to what you're doing on devices and the inexplicable presence of light that is pursuant to what are demon-possessed people who are monitoring you. That's relevant to the sex offense. And what's also relevant with regard to tangible evidence where you're prosecuting the demon-possessed in court, that's prosecuting the government in court, federal court, for terrorism. The entity is flying over, as the video you heard, flying over Saris Regis Group at 320 North Euclid Avenue as I proceed walking north on Lemon Avenue. That's the entity that is gang stalking, while that apartment building is while I'm at the Ontario Town Square, it is north of my person, and my body is being molested with light where the people of the state are north of my person at that venue, and that inexplicable light is directly relevant to the people who are in that environment. It is not mysterious conduct that's just going to, oh, I guess you're just being molested, and there's no way that you're going to have any enforcement of your rights, because that's not going to be associated with any person, because I'm not there, and not only that, I'm in my car, I'm driving by, I don't know anything about that light. That's not how this is going to go at all. The entity is engaged in what is domestic terrorism, and the supernatural features of this criminal activity is exactly why they are going to be prosecuted for terrorism. Saris Regis Group is committing a sex offense in the same way that Saris Regis Group is gang stalking with the government that's flying over its apartment building in conformity to the pattern of conduct where planes are stalking me throughout the city, including while Saris Regis Group is engaged in what is crossing path. Saris Regis Group, the building, the apartment complex is crossing path while a fake sun remains over me, and that fake sun is remaining over me as I'm in a vehicle driving by that apartment building, while I'm on foot walking by that apartment building, while the demon-possessed are molesting like they are at 320 North Euclid Avenue. And they are mentally ill, and they're no longer closeted psychopaths. Okay, they are fully engaging in that, and they're doing so again at 6:57 p.m. This same impunity is going to be in court, civilly and criminally prosecuting the company. That would include its gang stalking employees, who I don't have to know his or her names. I don't need to know their work schedules. They are being prosecuted as I am maintaining the body of evidence proving targeting by the government, which includes Saris Regis Group. The Tesla car charging, the gang stalking residents, the evidence of the government stalking, flying over that venue, being inside of that venue, being around that venue, being parked around, all manner of inclusion of Saris Regis Group, which is a facilitating venue, where the residents are gang stalking. That's why the building is cloaked in engineered light. That's why the fake sun is over me. That's why the entity is flying over it, while the entity is inside of that venue and all around that venue, engaging in surveillance, which Saris Regis Group is engaged in. Okay, that's how you're prosecuting psychopaths that are engaged in what is, first of all, demonic activity that they never planned on being exposed. And then when it's exposed, you're not disassociating yourself from that. You delusional psychopaths, you're being prosecuted, and you're going to be mentally assessed with it. By it. This is a sex offense that the entity is engaging in, and the evidence regarding the videos that you listened to, stalking by flying over my head at the Ontario Town Square, throughout the entirety of the parking lot at ARCO, and between the downtown Ontario luxury apartments and ARCO, the Ontario police fly over the top of my head. Throughout the entirety of the property at Ontario Town Square, the entity is flying over the top of my head at the Ontario Town Square, the video that you're just listening to. The entity, throughout the, everywhere in the country, the entity is keeping the fake sun, because that's not the sun. So you are keeping an object over me that's supposed to be the sun only if you are a flunky from 5th grade. Okay, would you believe that that's the sun? But they are keeping an object over me and in alignment to me while I am being targeted in the ways in which the people of the state who are demons prove with this impossible light activity, and the way that the government is proving with this stalking and targeting and harassment and terrorism with planes and helicopters. And that is the entity that's engaging in what is exposing the government while the people who are demons are targeting. And while the government, who are demons, are targeting, the entity is exposing its co-defendant. The government exposing the people of the state who are in the shoes of the state, not private citizens. And the people of the state, the government that's acting vicariously on the government, whose criminal pattern of conduct the gang stalking belongs to. Okay, this is a sex offense while Saris Regis, that's 320 North Euclid Avenue, and Saris Regis Group is engaging in a sex offense as an entity. The sex offender, that is the state of California. That is Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. That is UNICARE Smokehouse at 200 North Euclid Avenue. That is the 280 North Lemon Apartments in Ontario, California. That is the Unique Cafe directly across the street. The Herradura de Oro, the Newsboy Books, all right? Stater Brothers Markets at 646 West Holt Boulevard. I'm documenting the entire entity. And when I go to each of these venues, you are looking at the ceaseless pattern of conduct. That's the entity that's being documented while one person is subject to an entity targeting them. And that is the ability to prosecute that entire entity as one person. You're at one place at a time. You're in one neighborhood at a time, and that neighborhood acts as the entirety of that state. and that entirety of that state is going to be prosecuted for terrorism in furtherance of murder. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:01 p.m. The sex offense is committed by mentally ill, demon-possessed people. That mental illness is also exposing the Nephilim. The Nephilim are the ones that are engaging in mentally demented behaviors, which is also sexually violent, which is also criminal, okay? And it's also going to be expensive. Damages that federal law has never before contemplated. And the entity is engaging in this while they intended to murder the person that they could not and they will not. And I'm not only living through it, I'm engaged in real ongoing evidence about it, and I'm also going to prosecute. I'm also going to prosecute the government with regard to laws that exist and laws that shall come into existence to encompass what other American citizens that did not survive this and that will be subject to it and are subject to it now. That's my purpose, okay? The entity is engaging in what is a criminal pattern of conduct, which is exposing what you need to know, that the demon-possessed are real, the spiritual realm is real. That's what stalking with impossible light activity is. And the Nephilim are going to be prosecuted under with tangible evidence in a physical courtroom regarding what is actual physical consequences as well. This is P.O.C. I'm going to show you a picture of the entity that is stalking where I'm located at the Ontario Town Square, where the entity flew over the top of my head. And now those are the demons that are stalking on the south side of my person, elevating so low that it's competing with my voice. And they're not flying over the apartment building in Sarah's Regis Group. They're not flying over Metro 102 apartments. They're flying close to me, just like they are when I'm at the bus stop at 537 North Euclid Avenue. And they're flying over the storefront right next to me where a stalker wants to be. Also in the bathroom, they want to be right next to me. Okay, those are the sex offenders who are thousands and thousands of people. That's millions of people that have conspired my murder. And the Ontario International Airport is going to be prosecuted for terrorism, the conspiracy to commit murder, while every airline, American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, Frontier Airlines, Amazon Prime Air, UPS is using its commercial planes, the Delta Airlines, United Airlines, all of these airlines that I've already documented engaging in what is gang stalking under the fake sun, they're going to be prosecuted as corrupt companies engaging in terrorism in the United States. And it's also going to give further context regarding every plane crash that those corrupt companies have been engaged in, been involved in, because they're murders, actually. They're not accidents. The entities engaged in what is surveillance in the United States, and the demon-possessed that are so inclined to your physical movement, oh, they know what's happening with regard to planes. They're not having accidents with regard to failures. These are planned executions. This is murder that corrupt airlines like Delta Airlines engage in, and it's state action, okay? The entity that is gang stalking me is telling all of its secrets with regard to murders that they commit, with regard to acts of terrorism that are actually occurring right in front of your face. And while the entities engage in that same pattern, flying south of my person at the Ontario Town Square, Sarah's Regis Group, a whole bunch of demons that are going to be crying about being prosecuted, being deported, being labeled as terrorists and sex offenders, and going to prison, are engaging in what is a sex offense while the entity is stalking with commercial planes. I want to be clear, Julia Gu's prosecution for conspiracy to murder as a terrorist, being removed from that position and being prosecuted and labeled accurately as a sex offender and a terrorist, I want to be clear, this impunity is relevant to her criminal case. She is acting as an entity while I'm being molested and I'm being stalked with commercial planes, being terrorized, in other words. Okay? That's exactly how the government that's engaging in domestic terrorism as an entity shall be prosecuted. You are acting as an entity, speaking as an entity, exhibiting impunity as an entity. And while you are in a position of leadership, that's exactly what's going to be assigned to you. That's why gang stalking mayors are not staying in office. You're not ignorant about what's going on outside and above the sky space while somebody's being terrorized by helicopters outside of the city hall. No, you're being removed from office and you are exposed as an enemy of this country in doing so as well. You're not ignorant about that, nor will you be held in any, nor are you reasonably ignorant. They're not actually, nor are they reasonably ignorant about it. It's not just a one-off. It's a pattern of conduct that Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams are going to be prosecuted for. Terrorism, conspiracy to murder while they want to be looked at as police chiefs. Serving and protecting. They're targeting and conspiring. Okay? They're out here engaging in spell work and practicing voodoo and witchcraft and engaging in sex rituals. That's what they're doing. They are no police chiefs. These are psychopaths that are stalking in helicopters, the most embarrassing thing you could be caught doing as a so-called police department. This is the entity that's engaging what is combining that demonic pattern of conduct, stalking me with light, Sarah's Regis Group in particular, and what is also stalking as the airport. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:08 p.m. and I took a picture of it. You'll see the entity that's stalking as I go from the OVITT Family Community Library over to B Street. That's where the demon is stalking in a commercial plane flying over Metro 102 apartments. As I continue walking north up Lemon Avenue, walking toward the parking lot, toward the intersection of what is D Street and Euclid, that's where the demon is flying south of my person over the downtown Ontario luxury apartments, hovering and doing so. There's no takeoff when you're flying 4 miles away from the airport. It doesn't take 4 miles when you're hovering. That's not how you take off from the airport. When you're taking off from the airport, it's not going to be competing with my voice. You wouldn't hear it on my podcast. I would have no evidence about any sort of pattern of what is a public nuisance following me around. In other words, everywhere that I'm going, the entity is hovering over my head and flying around me with planes, while the entity is doing the same thing with helicopters. And by the way, they're doing it in an absurd environment where the sun doesn't seem to go anywhere. And these psychopaths that are standing us or around me all the time are molesting my body with light. That's not sunlight. These are the demon-possessed that conspire your murder while they psychologically torture and stalk you, including in bathrooms, and then have the audacity to have those psychopaths wear uniforms and stand in front of your face, and they can't come up with a reasonable narrative as to why they're there. They make up information, but you, having the presence of mind and being smarter than all the demons together, document the fact and prove in real time that they're lying demons. Those are the demons that are going to be prosecuted for terrorism. And Julia Gu and every other demon on that Ontario board is going to be prosecuted with the impunity that these bottom feeders exhibit. You're in positions of authority. Be prepared to be prosecuted as a sex offender that committed sexual violence by the multitudes. You're not staying in that position. You're not. You engaged in what is soliciting this. You thought that you would get away with it in your position, like you're high up on some tower that nobody can reach. Be prepared to lose that position. You're going down in shambles and in shame. So says the demons of the Ontario Fire Department. Criminal summoning, molestation with impossible light, demons that are engaging in surveillance, demons that are manifesting while they hear an indictment that they are very fearful of. That's called criminal summoning. That's not a fire department. Michael GERKEN is being exposed as an enemy of this country, actually engaged in terrorism and not firefighting. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 7:11 p.m. at Ontario Town Square. All right, Wells Fargo, 240 North Euclid Avenue, a sex offense committed as an entity, a demon that is gang stalking by the provision of this corrupt establishment where the people of the state are driving on the property to engage in what is sexual assault and battery with what is impossible light. And Wells Fargo is engaged in gang stalking through its employees, through the establishment itself, where I'm capturing the fake sunrise and set as well. This is 7:24 p.m. These are demons that are engaged in criminal activity on your property, around your property, above your property, and you will be prosecuted, as the entity also engages in criminal activity by presence and the existence of that property, gang stalking employees, gang stalking patrons, the gang stalking government. So you are understanding what is a ceaseless pattern of conduct, and you will be prosecuted as you are accumulating charges, engaging in that pattern of conduct, regardless of the business hours. Okay, Wells Fargo is committing a sex offense as an entity, while the entity is crossing path in that parking lot and molesting me with impossible light, which again is not their headlights, and under the fake sun, it's not sunlight either. This is the entity that is Wells Fargo that is targeting me, and Wells Fargo is acting as an entity. It's the same entity that's engaging in a sex offense, going out of their way to touch, in the same way that they go out of their way to stalk me amongst thousands of people together. And you are stalking as thousands of people, ultimately millions of people, to accomplish murder and to psychologically torture that person. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:25 p.m., 240 North Euclid Avenue, Wells Fargo, P.O.C. Top of my head yesterday night at Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, which is also where the Ontario Police Department engaged in what is flying over the top of my head and flying in circles around me. This is the entity, again, the entire Ontario Town Square flying over the top of my head. All right, this is the entity that's engaging what is stalking in the path. The Ontario International Airport does so on the south side of my person. Serial flight on the south side of my person as I travel north or south of any street in Ontario. That's the entity. That's the same city of Ontario. That's a threat to your life. It's pursuant to the same gang stalking system at 6:50 p.m. at Ontario Town Square. This is P.O.C. I will show you the specific environment. I've got two shadows. This one is faint over here.
Alright, you can see it appearing underneath on the bushels. Yeah, this is P.O.C. It is gang stalking. It's criminal surveillance. This is surveillance while the people of the state are surrounding at the square. This is surveillance while they maintain a booth under the guise of what's supposed to appear as legitimate. It's not. It's gang stalking. At the infamous Ontario Town Square where the fake sun rises and sets. P.O.C. Okay, the entity has a stalker that is at 7:42 p.m. come around pacing an engineer light while the demon-possessed are molesting my person with light that's surrounding all around. This is an act of terrorism that the demon-possessed silently commit. They just come walking around you, and the entity is surrounding you with light. This is mental illness. The entity is engaging in and always exhibiting its mental illness, and it's going to be committed with this very evidence. The people of the state whose mental illness you are already aware of by their pattern of conduct, meaning that ability to categorically identify the illness and identify and prosecute the criminal activity. The demon is walking by, and while he is on his it is walking on using a communication device. They're doing so in engineer light, and this is the government that is walking by you, and the entity is engaged in what is surrounding me with all manner of light on my person and all around. Understand, the entity is engaging in what is stalking. There is no vantage point where across the street on Euclid Avenue or anybody parked is going to have any light that's going to reach over here, or would it impact me? This is an overt act of aggression. It's a threat. It's psychologically harmful, and it's also sexually motivated. The demons engage in what is more harassment and threatening behavior as you document. This is what Mike LORENZ commits while stalking me with helicopters, as I publish evidence, as I document, as I capture the people of the state who are sex offenders. This is what I'm always capturing. The entities engaging in this together with the government that is captured stalking at the Ontario Town Square in operation of a communication device, a shadowy figure, and I'm being accosted with impossible light. The entity is going to be diagnosed with this very evidence. This is what an entity is not understanding. They're going to be diagnosed as a population, literally a factory, the ability to categorically identify what is mental illness that is shared by a population, and this is going to be used to, again, assess Ronald Leverage, assess Mickey of the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, assess what is this demon Vivanco of the Ontario Police, assess Jason Isaac Fields, the entity that is demon-possessed, that's gang stalking, okay? This is the entity that shares that pattern of conduct. And the evidence is also showing that there is absolutely no exception. There is absolutely no anomaly. The entities engaging in this, and the entity that does so through the different faces is speaking to the faceless entity. A multiplicity of faces, identical pattern of conduct. They also share what is mental illness. And the entity that engages in that through a faceless demon is engaging in what is identifying and acting in conformity to their mental illness that they will also be assessed for. That's the P.O.C. The entity is engaging what is targeting me with engineer light with regard to the absence of any defense in court that you don't know who I am. The evidence shows you know exactly who I am, and you will also be diagnosed with regard to every lie that comes out of their face while they're maliciously engaging in the P.O.C. This is how you're going to use the malice of the gang stalkers while they're targeting ordinary American citizens that aren't thinking at this level, and understandable because they're being targeted. They're being psychologically tortured and tormented. They're being stalked by sex offenders, by predators, by absurdly mentally ill people, okay? It is currently 7:46 p.m. That train activity is relevant to what is amplified noise while the demons listen to me legally analyze and also psychoanalyze their criminal activity. This is P.O.C. This is the documentation of the entity stalking Metro 102 Apartments, Sarah's Regis Group, Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, stalking at 537 North Euclid Avenue with a demon-possessed population that's stalking with light. Their headlights are not causing what is light fanning across the wall. These are the demons that are engaging in the nighttime version of stalking under the fake sun, and engineer light flies across the wall while they cross path with me, which is stalking as a population, okay? This is P.O.C. German is gang stalking and sharing in sexual assault and battery at what is CHEVRON at 506 North Euclid Avenue in relevant